Yahweh's garden. Okay, thank you. Well, we've got quite a few people we'd like to welcome. We'd like to welcome Mariam, also to, who else? A couple of other new ones. We've said hello to Alba, Catherine, Eunice, and who else? Siobhan's here, that's right. And probably one or two others. So I hope it's all coming across loud and clear for you from our wonderful sanctuary here in Burwood. It's so good to see people that are breathing and are alive. Now, today's talk, as usual, I wrestle with this, and I make myself start off on a Monday morning by doing the order of service. And as the week goes on, things get filled in. Who's going to do the daily word, who can do the meditation, and who can do the talk and other things like that. So I've been in a gardening mood lately, which is unusual for me, if you could see my garden. It has its moments. We all have our moments in our garden. But we're calling this one Yahweh's Garden. And that song we saw is by a group called the Yayas. I actually saw them live. I bought their CD. I couldn't help it. They were playing live at the International Youth Thought Alliance in 2014. And that was the only good song on it. So I've tried some of the others, but my goodness, they sold it to me then. It's great. So who is Yahweh, for goodness sakes? In this day and age, why are we still using these? Are you Yahweh? Aha, we'll get to that. Let me finish and explain. The original Hebrew from Jehovah means the self-existent one who reveals itself to all its creation. Yahweh revealed itself to Jesus as the Father within. Yahweh revealed itself to Moses as I am that I am. Jehovah, the I am. Now, it's not all that simple. In the King James Version of the Bible, which I still love, and I get into a bit of trouble sometimes at the Unity classes because we're supposed to be using a new translation. But I like to compare them. I've got a comparative Bible with the different ones, and they're all pretty much the same. In the King James Version of the Bible, Yahweh has been translated as Lord. Lord means external ruler. Now, it means a great difference whether we think of I am as self-existence within, or Lord or Master without. Shocking as it sounds to some, we are the individualized expression of God, Yahweh. God as spirit is the divine idea, and we are here to bring that dream into realization and express it. And this takes time for this to make sense to us. But it will make sense when we're ready. And we're getting there. So I'd like to call this journey we're all on a journey in Yahweh's garden, and look at it. We've heard of famous gardens, the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Gethsemane. Closer to home, the Botanical Gardens. And in Ballarat last week, the place was full. It was of massive flowers because it was their famous Begonia Festival. And I managed to drive through it on the way here. They still left the flowers out, and it was absolutely amazing. They're famous for that. And some writers refer to the earth we're here now as the Garden of Earthly Delights. I'm okay with that because look at the earthly delights we've got. My quince tree is out. Big, wonderful quinces. And I hope there are still some there because the parrots have just discovered them. But I managed to rescue one or two. And so I'll be making some quince paste. Not an easy thing to do. Now, in this garden of earthly delights, it's actually a world of opposites, blessings and challenges. I've used this before, and I can't remember where I got it from. I think it was Eric Butterfield. God planted us as the perfect seed. It did not make us the perfect tree, but the perfect seed. God didn't make us as we might have been, but as we might become. In my class I'm doing at the moment of Jesus' teachings, it's been good. I've been able to just go back over some of the things over 40, 50 years that I've just taken for granted, and I'm finding that the ways Jesus taught and healed. And nothing we're unfamiliar with, like he used touch. He uses outside things for those that needed it. And he used other methods as well. But he didn't heal everyone, because the main thing for healing is to have faith. And Jesus always said, do you believe you can be healed? And that had a huge part in it. And when the centurion arrived, who had a servant back home who was ill, he asked Jesus to heal the centurion. And Jesus said, okay, I'm coming along. And the guy said, no, I'm not worthy to have you in my house. But I know if you speak the word, I will be healed. And Jesus said, your faith has worked. Such great faith I have not seen. And the centurion's servant was healed in that very hour, as it says in the Bible. Jesus liked to use different ways of teaching, and one of them was parables. In Luke 8, we have the parable of the sower. He tells the multitude of a parable of a sower, a farmer, who went out and sowed his seeds, all of which met different faiths. Faiths, a bit like us. Some fall by the wayside of the road and were trampled down and eaten by the birds. Others fall on the rocks or gravel. They sprout, but withered because they lacked moisture and couldn't establish solid roots in the ground. Others fall on good soil, which is rich earth, fertile soil, and produced a good crop. They prosper. After telling this story to the crowd, the disciples must have noticed a few bewildering sort of looks on the people, because they asked Jesus to explain what it meant. So he explains that the path or the wayside are the ones that hear the word of God, but then the devil comes along and tempts them away from practicing and demonstrating, living the word. The devil. It's our ego out of control. And doesn't it ever get out of control? And we know even Jesus was confronted with this on the mountain before he started his journey into Jerusalem. His ego appeared to him and said, you can do this, you can do that, you can be king of the world, you can fly over Jerusalem, there'll be armies. And he said, get behind me, Satan. So the devil being a symbol for those negative thoughts of fear, judgment, greed, anger, and limitation. They crowd out our inner fears and worries. The seeds that fall on the rocks. Now, those happy are those who hear the word, but they have no roots to hold them to the truth imparted. They believe for a while, but in times of adversity, they fall away and go back in the old routine. They may come across a new book, a new DVD, a new prayer thing on CD they can sit and listen to with waterfall noises behind it. But then they forget all about it in real life. And isn't it easy to do that? And we were talking before about driving on the roads earlier. My goodness, things we used to do when we were young, now we're not so inspired to do them, especially if you want to drive over Westgate Bridge these days. Not a big thing, but it used to be easy. But now with all the cars, lanes blocked and everything, you think, oh, look, I won't go that way. Whereas probably if I did, I'd get right through. The seeds trapped in the thoughts. Those who hear but become entangled by life's worries, riches, fame, and pleasures, so they do not mature. Well, why would riches and fame and pleasures be a problem? We've all affirmed, haven't we, in the past, for affluence, for success in what we do. But sometimes, what comes along with that success? We're seeing many in mainstream media now, especially younger people, and the way social media works, it can be quite sad, really, because some people can't handle the pressure. Okay, I'd like a hit record, but then you've got to go and do the concerts, you've got to do interviews, you've got to be spoken to, there's someone looking at you every time you do something, and it would get on people's nerves. As we can see, you need to be very, very strong to survive it. So in this case, it is our inner fears or worries, not those inner ones, but those of life itself, the glamour of life. And isn't life wonderful? But it's still a world of opposites that need balancing. So the seeds that fall on good soil produce a crop, good crop. These people hear the word and hold on to it. Seed thoughts cultivated in a nurturing environment, producing good outcomes in the condition that are pictured in their life. Doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time, because we're not always like that. We're here to learn in this world of opposites. But that good soil keeps them through those dark nights of the soul, and they carry on, knowing that all is in divine order. Now, our body is a tree in this earthly garden. It's a perfect vehicle for us. It's a spacesuit for us as we unfold into the image of God in expression, materialized. A schoolroom. Here we are, a living spirit, here to grow and be more of spirit. And how are we using our knowledge of God? Is it outpictured in our environment, here and now? Well, we can't hurry our development, but regardless of the circumstances we find ourselves in, individually or collectively, we are evolving. And just as our gardens at home need pruning and weeding, so do our thoughts, words, and feelings need attended to. And this is a constant process. Those of you who have had experience with mindfulness know that it is quite an eye-opener. I may have said to you, my first experience was with a Buddhist lady. And she had a packet of grapes. And she said, take a grape, I'll show you what mindfulness is. So I grabbed the grape, shoved it in and swallowed it. She said, no. You've picked the grape. You look at that, yes, I'll have you. And you pick it up, you hold it and feel it. Then you say thank you and put it in your mouth and just gently use and eat it. But take your time as it goes through and say thank you afterwards. And you know, that one grape felt like a whole packet. Really, before I just get a couple and, just quickly because I'm hungry, just shove them in, eat them, and not even give any credit to how it was formed as a grape. Mindfulness. And is it possible to be mindful all the time? Well, if anyone here is, please let me know. I'd like to learn how. But we're getting better, aren't we? I think we're getting more used to being, well, 2 years ago, we were rushing around. I don't take things for granted like I used to 2 years ago. It's nice to just think, yeah, I've got a moment of peace now. Let me enjoy it. Thank you, God. Well, we know from our spiritual teachings there's also a practical way, another way to do this. We've talked about it before. Different presenters come up here and they say it again, and it's as if we're just hearing it for the first time. The denials and affirmations are used, but in a certain way. Matthew 6, verse 7, Jesus says, "But when you pray, use not vain repetitions as the Gentiles do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking," like without thinking. Now, I started my affirmations out like that, I suppose, years ago when I got my first book at the Theosophical Society in my 20s. I think it was Catherine Ponder. And I think it was a book on affirmation. And I'm walking around saying, Jehovah Jireh, I'm healthy today. Jehovah Jireh, I'm healthy today. Yeah, good, thank you. And Jehovah Jireh tickled me, actually. Oh, that's a new one. And Ponder was like that. And also Florence Shin had some very quaint ways of doing her affirmations. She'd say, find a nice symphonic record or some classical record and put it on your gramophone quietly in the background. And then sort of go into a mood and say your affirmation. Well, that's getting closer, but I never did that. But there was a time I really needed a demonstration. So I used feeling. Now, Jesus used affirmations and repetition after all that, but he didn't recite them off as a parrot. He used feeling along with the thoughts and words, because what we are feeling is going out into the universe, and by that boomerang law of cause and effect is coming back to us. And, you know, that's one of the laws of cosmic energy. It's just there. And we are praying all the time, affirming all the time. And at a seminar a couple of years back in the States, I think it was Gary Simmons who wrote The Eye of the Storm. He said, it will be a golden expression. Does everyone agree with that? Of course, a few front rows put their hand up and said yes. And so Gary said, well, how are you today? Leslie's heard this one. And the lady said, oh, I don't feel too good. And Gary wasn't one to pussyfoot around. He said, well, you're not giving God a good day. And he also said something quite shocking to me at the time, but not anymore. If you're feeling like that, if you're feeling angry, or you need sort of to quieten down, do that first. You're better off not praying than sending that energy out along with whatever shallow words are going with it. And that's why when we do our meditations, we center ourselves as best we can. Sometimes it's not so easy. So we take a breath, feel that connecting breath to us, and then we can really say from the heart, our feeling center, what we want to happen in our lives, probably for the greatest good of all. There is a whole technique of this, working this magic stuff. Anyway, it's in our consciousness that we evolve. We can't push it. We just have to live life. And isn't it great that we know these laws? Anyway, regardless of that, individually and collectively, we are evolving. You know, I see a lot of young people, and I couldn't tell you who's at the Oscars this year. I'm just not interested. And I couldn't tell you who's on top of the charts for singing. They all have what I call as an old time, it's strange names. You know, and I just think, well, I've listened to a couple of them, yeah, they're good. But I go back to the early times of, you know, the trad jazz, early rock and roll, and then the 60s and 70s. And Stuart and I have talked about a few old time songs. This Is It. And a few, like, you may not have heard that one. But to me, that's in my mind. But some of the new songs, the closest I came to it was Taylor Swift. She had a song called Shake It Off. And I thought, we can use that for spirit. That's good. That's a positive. Now I thought to myself, well, give some of the others a go. Because I'm sure if I did take the time to listen properly, if I could stand it, there would be a message there. Anyway, so Spirit will use whatever it takes to express more and more of itself. Some people here may have a book of Rumi poems. I don't know whether we've got a copy in the library, but we should really have. I'll have a look after. So Rumi was a Persian Sufi, a poet and a mystic. 1207, he wrote, I died as a mineral and became a plant. I died as a plant and became an animal. I died as an animal and was human. Why should I fear? When was I less by dying? Yet once more I shall die as a human, to soar with the angels blessed. But even from angelhood, I must pass on. All except God shall perish. Everything begins and ends in spirit. And this is attributed to Gautama Buddha. Nothing is lost in the universe. Everything is continuously changing. And all these things are following the universal law of cause and effect. And today's daily word, which Leslie illumined so wonderfully, every gardener knows that blooms grow best in good soil. Even before planting, it is good practice to pull the weeds and prepare the soil, giving the seeds the optimum conditions in which to grow. Like bright, beautiful flowers, these positive thoughts bloom and grow into my consciousness. Look, I enjoyed preparing that today. I got a lot out of it for me. So I hope you got something out of it as well. Thank you.